All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into Behind the Masterpiece, brought to you by Visit Sarasota. And you can always go to listen to this broadcast on visitsarasota.com. I'm Brian Hersh, your host, and also CEO of the Arts and Culture Alliance. With us this week, we have the incredible, the legendary Nik Wallenda. Nik Wallenda, who's with Wonderland Circus, presented by you, Nik Wallenda. Nik, welcome to Behind the Masterpiece.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's presented by me and LeeCom this year, which is really exciting. We've got a new presenting sponsor. So
amazing. Well, welcome. Congrats. We're incredibly excited. You have quite a name and a reputation for bringing such great circus artistry. So listen, how did this come to be? How did Wonderland Circus come to be? What inspired you to create this?
So my wife and I own a show in New York City called the Big Apple Circus. We recently took ownership about 3 years ago. And as we were producing, actually about 5 years ago, as we were producing that show, it is a tradition that is ran in Lincoln Center in New York City for about 48 years now. Again, we just recently took it over. But as we were there, my wife said, why don't we bring something like this to Sarasota? She said, this is our home. This is where we love to be. We're spending the winters in New York City. It's cold up here. She's like, let's do something for Sarasota. So that's sort of how the conversation began. And then fast forward a couple years after that, we decided that we would have some meetings with Benderson Development and find a location that made sense. And lo and behold, this is our third year now, our third season of Wonderland. Right under the big top. This year's a very exciting year because we have a brand new big top that is coming from Europe. In fact, it is going to be unloaded shortly here, and we will start setting it up. And it's sort of exciting for us to bring what our families have done for several hundred years right here to our hometown in Sarasota. My family dates back to the 1780s, 7 generations. My wife's family dates back to the 1820s in circus. So as well as 7 generations and 8 on the other side of her family from Australia and Mexico. So there's a lot of circus royalty in our blood. And again, this is our passion, is not only entertaining. And I think that's one of the unique things about Wonderland isn't just a circus. It is circus acts, but to a storyline. It is more of Cirque du Soleil meets Broadway, meets Ninja Warriors, let's say. And so we have a full storyline, but that storyline and everything my wife and I do, we pour our hearts and souls into. It is a very inspirational story where we take our audience on a journey. It's not just to see this incredible talent that we bring from around the world, but it is really taking the audience on a journey. And our hopes are and our prayers are that after the audience leaves that show, they leave inspired and motivated to pursue their crazy and wild dreams. Yeah. Everybody that knows Nik Wallenda knows he has crazy and wild dreams. And I've fulfilled most of mine. There's still a few more on the list, but we want our audiences to continue to pursue theirs as well.
Can't wait. So this is opening in a few weeks, November 21st through January 4th. People can get information and tickets, of course, by going to wonderlandcircus.com. So Nik, you're bringing a few cool special guests who are going to be featured there, Johnny Rocket and Ty McFarlane. How do you put this all together?
So it starts in my office right here, actually. And my wife and I will sit down. She comes up with the concept and the storyline, and then we sort of go back and forth together as producers, figuring out what's going to work best. And then after creating that outline of a storyline, we then go to, often YouTube, but also to our Rolodexes and find talent that fits that storyline. This year is a story of redemption. And a lot of the stories are things like our main character, Johnny, and our host, which is Ty McFarlane, who's also acting as Santa. Or Saint Nick. They are essentially going and recycling things that have been abandoned. And for instance, as we here in America are so spoiled, we will abandon, I don't like that bike anymore. I'm just going to throw it out. Well, there's nothing wrong with that bike. It can be refurbished, and anybody, there's other people that would love to have that bike. So they're essentially going and finding these things that have been abandoned and putting them to good use. And one of our acts is a roller skating act from Ethiopia, for example. Well, in the storyline, Johnny and Ty sneak into as Santa does in the middle of the night, sneak into a room and find some roller skates underneath the bed, recycle them, and now it is brought to life again. And really the emotion behind that is that we really want people to realize that there's always time. You never run out of time. There's always a meaning and a purpose for everything that we do. And that's really, again, that's the feeling of this year's show. So in order to do that, we bring in, again, talent from around the world. Ty McFarlane, ringmaster on Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus for several seasons, also has performed all around the world. He is like a family member to me. He's like a big brother, and he's an integral part of our show. This is his third year back. Johnny Rocket, who is our comic relief during the show, again, comes from a generational circus background, lives right here in Sarasota, and is a crowd favorite for sure. The kids see him come into the ring and they start chanting his name the moment they see him, and they're supporting him the entire way. But he sort of plays the character of all of us that are sort of trying to figure out who we are and what we're to do in life. And he is that person, and we're sort of, as an audience, living our life through him.
Yeah, amazing. So no pressure. 3 years. There's 3 years for this now, over 5 years for Big Apple, which I worked at Lincoln Center a long time ago. So remember that very fondly. And then just a few centuries of circus family legacy for you as well. So Nik, how do you raise the bar each year to year as you form this next enterprise here?
So, well, I'm always raising the bar. First of all, that's what I do for a living. But, it is really, I think the way to create a show that gives the impression that you're raising the bar is pouring your heart and soul into it. And that's what my wife and I do. We believe, just like people ask me my favorite TV special, was it Niagara Falls, the Grand Canyon, a volcano? They all have a special place in our heart, and they're all amazing and they're all awesome. Well, that's the same with our shows. As long as we pour our heart and soul into them and we're doing it for the right purpose, we believe that the audience will continue to be motivated and inspired. And that's what it's about. As I was younger, growing up in this industry, it was about impressing people. The older I got, I realized there's a bigger purpose in my life and in my career. And it really is about inspiring people that nothing is impossible. And that's really what my wife and I's heart is. It's not for people to come and go, oh, that was impressive, and they had that amazing act and that amazing talent, and Nik did that on the wire. It really is, wow, we came there to see a circus being entertained and to be entertained, but we're leaving here inspired, and I want to go climb climb Mount Everest, and I want to go run that marathon, and that really is our heart's desire. And we hear testimony after testimony of people here in Sarasota saying, yes, you know what, we left there feeling empowered. And again, there's no greater reason to live than that, I think, than empowering others.
Amazing, really special. Of course, Wonderland Circus. You can always go to wonderlandcircus.com, running from November 21st to January 4th. We're here with the legendary and incredible Nik Wallenda as you're listening to Behind the Masterpiece, which you can go to visitsarasota.com to learn more or catch this podcast. This sounds incredibly exciting, very, very special. But, it takes a lot of physical work, but a lot of mental work in planning as well. So there's a lot of mind, body, spirit. And I think you're really talking about some spirit and characters. You want to uplift everyone else's, but how do you keep yourself charged and strong, body and mind as well, to pursue this work?
To be honest, inspiring others keeps me strong. I mean, that is, again, I believe when you find your purpose in life, you're completely empowered and you're continually empowered. So that is how I find my strength. But I also believe that our minds are a powerful tool. And I think that life is about mind over matter. I think we are our own worst enemy. We talk ourselves out of our dreams and our goals and our ambitions. It would have been very easy for me to say, you know what, you're not going to be able to change a law in the United States 100 years old and one in Canada to get permission to walk across Niagara Falls. Don't even try. But I think that tenacity and grit, and if I can pass that on to others, again, they can fulfill their dreams as well. And as our minds are powerful tools, I think that as long as we learn that we are in control of our minds are not in control of us. And that sounds crazy, but a lot of us listen to our thoughts, but not our capabilities, don't recognize our capabilities. So I think it's so important that we as human beings continually put our thoughts in check. I have to do that still daily. When I'm walking over the Grand Canyon and I get hit with a gust of wind that is 50 miles an hour, 48 miles per hour, 1,500 feet up, no safety devices. Of course, my mind goes, dude, you're in danger. You better get down. You better grab on. You better hold on. But see, I can counter that thought, that negative thought, if you will, with a positive thought. And so my thought when that happened was I put myself back here at Nathan Benderson Park, where I was training for that walk on a cable with 90-mile-an-hour winds that were being created by airboats, so that I could talk myself sort of my mind and go into the realization that, hey, you've trained for more than this. You're more than prepared for this, rather than allowing my mind to take over and freak me out and having to give up on that attempt, or could lose my life. And I think a lot of times in life, our minds are so powerful that it can be life or death, the decisions that we make. And it could be life in quotations. I think a lot of people live life, but they don't live life to its fullest. And again, I think that if we can learn to master our minds, then I think we can achieve anything, any dream, any goal, any ambition.
For sure. And it takes a lot of mastery to pull this off. Of course, Wonderland Circus performing November 21st through January 4th. It takes a lot of mastery to do this, which means a lot of rehearsals as well, whether it's the individual practice that everyone is doing. But what do the rehearsals look like as you're going through this and as we're gearing up for just shortly around the corner? What do rehearsals look like? Walk us through that a little bit.
A lot of long days, especially for the executive producer and his counterpart. But it's long days, but just like any theatrical production, you start early in the morning and it's working through the technical side of it. What's unique about what we do is there's a lot of safety involved as well. So the lighting can't be in my eyes as I'm walking the wire, for example, whereas if I was just walking on stage, it wouldn't be such a big deal. Sure. So we even have to bring in unique lighting designers, our music, our audio designer. All of those guys have a special niche, if you will, where they know what they're looking for. We don't have to say, don't put the lights in my eyes, those sort of things. So a lot of it is technical. A lot of it is just going through the steps. As far as the talent themselves, besides the scripts that we are learning, the acts that they do, they've done for lifetime, for generations, their family have done them. So those acts are fairly honed. What is unique about our show is, generally speaking, a circus family will have a certain music track that they play to, a certain costume that they wear. Well, everything we do is custom for our show. So they have to learn their act to our music that my wife actually picks and writes some of for the show. They have to wear costumes that, again, my wife actually handcrafts and makes for the show. So it is a little unique for even our performers. And then again, the fact that many of them are having to learn lines. You know, Johnny and I were speaking just a couple days ago as we've been leading into rehearsals, and he had said, you know, it's very unique for me. I'm used to having to go onto that stage and make people laugh, but now it's not just making people laugh. Now I'm telling a story, and I have to stick to that story as well as make them laugh. But again, what I explained to him, because he said, I feel awkward sometimes. I'm just supposed to go out there and make people laugh. And I said, what you don't realize, there's a bigger purpose in inspiring people and following through the storyline that will inspire them. And it was just a cool conversation. And I think a realization to him that was like, wait, there's a bigger meaning than just making people laugh to this show.
Yeah, big show indeed. Wonderland Circus, November 21st through January 4th at wonderlandcircus.com. Nik, I have one more question for you as you're talking out loud. And inspiration is a really big theme about this, but when I just look at the dates, November 21st through January 4th, Nik, how do you do this? Like, so it's one thing you prepare, and if you go do something that's huge and epically, you're only walking across the Grand Canyon like one time, like, right? Like, I mean,
yes,
that's a lot of training.
Yes,
but that was still one time. This is day after day, night after night. How are you preparing? How do you go through that? How do you do that for so many runs?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So we'll do 54 performances this winter. Just for the general audience. We also do 6 private performances for Sarasota Memorial Hospital and their staff. We also do 4 private shows they're not private. They're actually for the public school sector, Title I schools, Boys and Girls Club, Salvation Army. They all come to shows that we actually give back to our community. We also, just for everybody listening, we have certain first responders shows where they all and their families are able to come free to our performance. So we can thank all of our local first responders here in the Sarasota community and surrounding areas. But, you know, in order to keep doing it over and over again, I would say that the biggest challenge with that is complacency. You know, as an actor, when you're on stage and you're repeating the same lines over and over again, you can just kind of chill and be doing your lines. You know them. It's like clockwork. When you're telling lines and trying to carry on a storyline and risking your life, you can't become complacent. And when you do stuff over and over again, that's a danger. So it is important that we always stay on our toes. And we do that sometimes by just messing with each other a little bit with the script during the show as we're talking and communicating with each other. But again, that can be a very big danger. But, the blessing is our families have done this for so long. This is life to us. My great-grandfather said it best when he said, life is on the wire and everything else is just waiting. And for our family, that is a fact.
Wow. Well, profound. No better way to close than that. Life is on the wire. Nik Wallenda, Wonderland Circus, wonderlandcircus.com, November 21st through January 4th. You can catch more about this on Behind the Masterpiece by going to visitsarasota.com. Nik Wallenda, thanks for being on Behind the Masterpiece. Thanks for listening to this episode of Behind the Masterpiece, brought to you by Visit Sarasota County. For more and to hear this podcast, go to visitsarasota.com.